If you're thinking about moving to St. Augustine, then you want to make sure that you're not going to make any of these 5 mistakes when you do so. What's up everyone, my name is Thomas with Real Broker here in St. Augustine, Florida, and if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest here in Northeastern Florida, make sure you reach out to me and my team. All we try to do is give you the information so that you can make an educated decision on what you want to do, which is buy, sell, or invest here in Northeastern Florida. So in today's video, what I want to do is cover the top 5 mistakes that I see when people are complaining about moving here to the area. Now this is going to cover things such as traffic, it's going to cover cost of living, and it's also going to cover lifestyle. So we're going to go through all 5 of those things, and I'm also going to show some pros and cons on those as well, just so you have a well-rounded answer to see if this area is the right area for you. The first thing we're going to start with is going to be researching the neighborhoods. Now, this channel is literally directly for that. So this whole purpose of this channel is to educate you guys. I have a whole playlist over here, and I'll link it up here above, where you can take a look at all the different neighborhoods. And I kind of do the same thing on a micro level where I dive into the neighborhoods and I give you the cost of the neighborhood. I also give you some of the pros and cons. I also take a look at commute times to Jacksonville, to the airport, to the beach, just so you have a good idea of what you're looking at when you're thinking about moving to this area. So I have that above, make sure you check that out. But that's one of the main things that I see is a lot of people are like, hey, I need to buy a house, I sold my house up here, I need to do something quickly. A lot of people don't want to spend money, but I'm like, hey, I of course want to sell you a house the first day you come down here. I'm a biased realtor and I'm greedy, right? That's what they all say. But I tell a lot of people like, hey, come down here, get an Airbnb for a month or 3 months and really get to know the area and come around. Is that going to cost you, a couple $1,000s? For sure, but I think if you're looking at, probably going to be at least $3,000 a month for a month-to-month Airbnb in the area. But if you look at $3,000 to $9,000 on a potential $500 to $1 million investment, I think it's worth it to take your time, research neighborhoods, and get comfortable with that area and the lifestyle that area allows you. Just like I said earlier, each neighborhood, each area kind of has their own pros and cons and their drawbacks. So like if you're moving here for, let's say you want to move here specifically to retire, you want the entertainment lifestyle, you want like the golden years, you want to be able to go out on the boat, you're probably not going to want to live on the west side of the county, and that's just because your commute to all of those things is going to take you 30 to 45 minutes. Although on the west side of the county, they have some beautiful master plan communities that could fit your lifestyle really well, but you just have to be aware like, okay, well, hey, if I want to go out to downtown St. Augustine and enjoy a night and go get a glass of wine or something like that, it's going to take you 40 minutes to get down there. Another thing is you may be a family with kids, right? And once you have kids, I know the lifestyle starts to change very drastically. Me and my wife are actually expecting, so I'm about to go through all of this as well. But that's something that, for me hasn't been a problem before. So like my lifestyle is going to be adjusted moving forward. And what I'm looking for to make my lifestyle as easy as possible is going to adjust. So one thing that you may want to look at, especially if you have kids, is a neighborhood with a school within the community. And we're seeing that. I think there's 3 or 4 master plan communities now doing new construction builds. Of course, they have resales as well, where they have a elementary through middle school so a K through 8 academy here in St. Johns County. So in terms of your commute and what you need to do in terms of picking your kid up, dropping them off, and actually going to school for parent-teacher conferences and stuff, it's made it so much easier for a lot of these parents when it's in the community that you live. So you don't even leave your HOA. You don't have to hit any stoplights or anything. You could ride your bike to the school. You could ride your bike with your kids to school to drop them off and pick them up, or a golf cart, or take your car, whichever one you want. Doesn't really matter. But that may be something to research prior to moving to the area, because I know in a lot of areas, schools aren't necessarily within the same neighborhood. You're either busing or commuting them to school, whether it's a car, bike, or whatever. So if you are looking for the right neighborhood for you and your family, just reach out to me and my team. We'll have a 30-minute to an hour consultation with you. We'll go over all of your needs and your wants, and then we'll give you a list. And pretty much, especially if you haven't been here to St. Augustine, I tell people like, hey, I'm not even going to show you houses until you check out these homes in these neighborhoods that we talked about to see if this neighborhood feels right to you. So what we do after that is we give you a PDF with all the neighborhoods on it, a couple of restaurants, coffee shops, bars on there as well, just for you to check out and go to this neighborhood and see if it's the right place for you. The second mistake I see is people misunderstanding the traffic and the commute along with tourism, right? Now, if you're looking to move here, St. Augustine is a tourist town. Tourism is the lifeblood of this town. It's where a lot of the money comes from the county. It's where a lot of employment comes from. The hospitality industry is going to be the biggest employer here outside of public government. So with that, with the tourism comes traffic, right? So especially around the summertime, especially around November to December, we're going to see a ton of traffic circled around downtown St. Augustine, Volano Beach, and St. Augustine Beach. And if you're living anywhere within those areas or plan to live anywhere within those areas, you need to take this into consideration. Especially if you're considering, which is one of my favorite neighborhoods, Lincolnville. Lincolnville is just south of downtown St. Augustine where the historic district is, but you're kind of stuck within that neighborhood whenever Nights of Lights comes around. And Nights of Lights is a holiday attraction from November through January, and it brings a ton of people to town. Literally downtown St. Augustine will look like Times Square when the ball is dropping. Like, it's insanity down there. And locals like myself, we just avoid it altogether. We don't want to go down there. But if you're looking to move and you want a historic home and you want to live in that area, that's something that you need to account for. Now, let's say that you're moving to the northwest part of St. Johns County. Well, that whole area is brand new. Everything there is new. The schools, the commercial spaces, the houses, everything, the roads, all parts of infrastructure up there are brand new, and they're continuing to build. And that area, because of its direct location to Jacksonville, has really started to boom, especially since the pandemic, but over the last 10 years, because it's an easy commute up to the city of Jacksonville. So if you're looking for a different type of job outside of public government and the hospitality industry, you're more than likely going to have to commute up to Jacksonville. So that's why that northern part of St. Johns County has really gone gangbusters these last couple of years, because one, they're building beautiful master plan communities with amenities for families and for kids, and they're really attractive and they're great. There's no doubt about it, they're great. But you're also close to St. Johns County. You get the benefits of living in St. Johns County, but you also don't have the issues of living in Duval County, and you're able to work in Duval and live in St. Johns County. So you get the best of both worlds. Now, like I said, all of this area is brand new, so they've been building like crazy out there, adding residences. I mean, just Silverleaf alone is going to have 17,000 residences, and that's one of the master plan communities that are building along that northwest part of St. Johns County. This has led to some major traffic problems. Now, if you get off of International Golf Parkway and I-95, there's some times where that exit going 95 south will be backed up while you'll see a car sitting on 95 because that's how bad the traffic is. Now, this is where they just put a Buc-ee's, they're putting a Bass Pro, they have the Costco right there, and they also have the brand new schools. They have the high school, the Toy Creek High School, they have a middle school, and they have an elementary school just down the road. So when you're factoring in tourism, of course, you have tourism, just extra people on the road. You're factoring in your commutes for your daily life, so rush hour traffic of people going to work. You have kids going to school. The kids going to school is going to be the biggest issue in a lot of areas. Of course, we want our kids to go to school, but at the same time, those create a ton of traffic in one isolated area, which, especially when we're building the infrastructure in these areas, has caused a ton of problems. So, couple of areas just to note are going to be State Road 210, right? 210 is the northern part of St. Johns County. If you've heard of Nocatee, Beacon Lake, Beach Walk, Shearwater, Stillwater, Shearwater, Rivertown, all of these neighborhoods are on 210. And this area has grown tremendously over the past couple of years, and they're now widening 210 across the whole thing. They just got a grant for like $50 million to be able to do that, and they've been working on it already. But it's going to be probably a year or two before it's fully complete. Now, with the residences and the schools, and some of the schools are right off of 210, that causes choke points of traffic, which can be a big headache, especially when you're just trying to pull out of your community, because one, you have to just wait all the time. If there's a school pickup line, forget about it. Like, you're stuck in that line until you can go around them. And it's like, even then, it's technically illegal to go around these guys, you know, especially when you have kids crossing the street and bikes and all that kind of stuff. So it makes a very big issue during those times. So that's just one thing to be aware of when you're going to buy in a neighborhood, and is like, does this make sense for you? And can you deal with the traffic and the issues until the infrastructure starts to come along? And from all the research I've done, the infrastructure projects are in place. They have the money for them. It's just a matter of time to get it done. The third mistake that I've seen is people ignoring the seasonal weather patterns, right? So Mostly here in St. Johns County, we don't have to worry about weather too much. You know, we've actually been ranked one of the best places to live when it comes down to average days of favorable weather across the United States. So it's like us in Southern California. There's not really many other places outside of northeastern Florida and Southern California that have over 250 days a year of favorable weather. So that being said, pretty much the entire year we have 75 to 85 degree weather where it's beautiful and sunny out. It may rain for like an hour a day, but it'll go right back to being beautiful and sunny. But in the dog days of summer, we have about a 3 to 4 month summer where it's going to be 90, 85 to 95 degrees, 100% humidity. It's going to be hot. We're just north of like the tropical area of South Florida, so we don't get as hot as South Florida, but we still live in Florida. We're still in the South. We still get extremely hot. And with that, of course, we have the dog days of summer. Towards the end of summer, from essentially like August to November, we have our hurricane season. And that's really the biggest one that I think people don't account for. Now, if you look at a map, if you look at a chart, us versus pretty much any other county in Florida in general, in northeastern Florida, St. Johns County fares way better than South Florida, than the Panhandle when it comes down to hurricanes. Those areas tend to get hit a lot more than we do. Over the past like 124 years, I think only 4 hurricanes have made landfall within St. Johns County. I think Duval is only 4 as well. And I think Flagler County, just south of us, might be 5 major hurricanes. Where it's like, if you look at like the southern part of Florida, you look at the Keys, it's like 30 plus major hurricanes have hit that area. So they're of course in a hotter climate, a little bit more tropical down there. They're getting hit a lot more than we are. So when it comes down to the hurricanes, it's something that we do take seriously, but not as much as the rest of Florida. So that's one thing that like people, I'm telling you this information, but you may just like, you know what, it'll be fine. If you've never experienced a hurricane before, it can be pretty scary, right? And that's something that I don't want anyone to feel, but it's just something that happens and it's part of being a Floridian. And you do get used to it. You know, it's still not as easy, but sometimes you know when you first come down, you'll probably freak out the first time. You'll get all prepared. You'll buy, a month's worth of toilet paper.
One thing I should...
For a 2-day storm, you'll buy a month's worth of water. You'll buy milk, eggs, and bread, which all go bad in the fridge if you lose power. You'll freak out a little bit, and that's okay. At least you'll be prepared for the next one, right? And then you will have to freak out a little bit less, and the next one a little bit less. And these are all things like, hey, a storm can change an area in an instant. I mean, we were taking a look at Sarasota. Sarasota, same thing that I said to you, Sarasota and Tampa, same thing that I said to you guys earlier, like St. Johns County doesn't get hit that often. Tampa pretty much never got hit, right? If you look at like where major hurricanes came, it came to South Florida and it came to the Panhandle, and really avoiding Tampa. But just this year, we've had, I think, 3 hurricanes make landfall in Tampa, which has really devastated that area. And just the other day, I saw someone kayaking through the main streets of like Sarasota. So that can change an area in an instant, so you do need to be prepared, but you don't need to freak out about it, especially here in our area. The fourth thing I see people making a mistake on when they move to the area is going to be taxes and the cost of living. Now, our area has completely changed since the pandemic. Our property prices since 2019 have gone up 60%. It's a major change for a lot of the locals here and for the people moving here. People moving here aren't as affected by that change because they've made money somewhere else where you probably made a lot more money. Property prices probably a lot more expensive, and now you're coming here to where like, hey, buying a $500,000 house isn't that expensive. For people that live here locally, that is a good bit of money for them, because most people, like I said, work in the hospitality industry or they work for public government. They're making around $50,000 to $70,000 a year on average. And when our housing prices are around $500,000 for the median sale across single-family townhomes and condos, that is very tough for them to afford. So when you're moving to the area, you're going to be buying into a neighborhood more than likely that is within an HOA. You also have an HOA, you have a CDD fee. And if you think about that, I just tell people, think about that as one thing. That is a monthly maintenance, right? So if you're from New York, you had maintenance on your co-op or a condo. That is exactly how you should think of an HOA and CDD, and just combine them in your brain because they operate very similarly. You'll see, oh, this is a no HOA community, and then the HOA will be $140 a month or $200 a month. But then you'll see an HOA and a CDD community where both of those HOA and CD come out to about $200 a month. They're inverse of each other, right? So you'll see a CDD of $2,200 for the year, and then you'll see an HOA of $100 for the entire year, right? So making it that $2,300 total across 12 months. That is very common within our area, and that's one way to think about it. But most people don't even realize that all these costs are associated with these $500,000 homes, and they look to move down here and they're like, oh man, I actually can't afford it like I thought I could. Another thing that a lot of people don't know, a lot of realtors don't know this, which is extremely sad, especially when you're buying a new construction home, is you need to look at the tax bill, right? Now, when you look at the tax bill when you're buying a new construction home, the taxes of the year before are based off of undeveloped land, right? It's a brand new piece of property. There's no home there at all. It was just land, and more than likely the builder bought acres and acres and acres of land, and it's just grouped up into this one section of how much this little parcel is going to cost. Your taxes are going to increase, and your taxes here in Florida are adjusted annually, right? Every single year they're adjusted. Will they change every single year? More than likely not, but they can be adjusted every single year. So they're based off of the market value of the property, and then that goes to a taxable value. So if you're basing it off of the market value of the property, let's say it's $500,000, on average your taxes are going to be around 1.4% of that purchase price. So for a $500,000 house, your tax bill could be around $7,000. That could be a major difference from when you're just looking at the land and what it was assessed at before. It could be a couple $100, and then it's going to go from $500, $600 up to $7,000 over a year. And if you're not aware of that change, it's going to be a major sticker shock when you get that bill in the mail. Now, I've heard other people talk about this that didn't know that their taxes would change year over year. And that put them in a position the following year when they realized, like, oh man, my tax bill went up $1,000, $2,000. Because that's what happens when you buy a new construction home, or if you buy a resale home. You got to think, if someone bought a home 10 years ago and they locked in the price there and they homesteaded their property, well, then they're only subject to that annual increase at maximum of 3%. So think of the property prices 10 years ago, they lock in the price then, their taxes are pretty much based off of 10 years ago with a 3% year over year increase over that 10 years. So their tax bill versus 10 years ago versus today is going to be completely different once it re-triggers in the property appraiser system. If you have any questions about that, I know it can get a little confusing. I can do the math for you. And there's also a great website St. Johns County has where they have a property tax estimator where it pulls in the millage rate from that local area, and then just based on the market value, it'll give you the estimate of taxes. And in general, if you are using that tool online, a lot of times we see that the taxable value comes in about 80% of the market value, right? So if you pay $500 for the home, it's typically coming in around $400,000 is what your taxes are going to be based off of. But these are all estimates. Don't quote me on this. Let's make sure it's right. We'll if you have questions about it, we can move forward at it when you're looking to buy or sell. And the fifth and final mistake that I see people make is not embracing the local lifestyle, right? And that's also on locals as well. When I was a kid, people from St. Augustine were the salt of the earth. I still believe that a lot of the people here are fantastic people, willing to give back and give the shirt off their back to many people. And I've had that happen to me. So not exactly that situation, but I've had a lot of charitable things in my life help me move forward from this town specifically, which I'll never forget, and I will always hold that to myself. But over the past couple of years, I've seen things change pretty drastically, and that's because we've had so many people move in. Now, when I was a kid, there were a lot of locals, people that grew up here were from the state of Florida, but there was also an influx of people like myself. Like, I moved here when I was 6, 7 years old, in 1998, and I was like one of the only New Yorkers here, New York, New Jersey kid here. And now it seems like anyone you meet outside of like the people that I knew from growing up are all from the Northeast. They're from California. They're from a different place. And our area has changed pretty drastically because of that. So I'm not telling you to vote like everyone votes here or do what everyone does here, but when you're trying to move to a new area and make it like the area you just moved from, like a lot of locals don't like that, right? So you gotta move. If you're moving to a new area, you're moving for a different type of lifestyle, and I think you need to adjust with that lifestyle, right? And this comes down to a lot of things, right? A lot of people say island time, Things do tend to move a little bit slower. We're not New York City here, right? It's not the hustle and bustle, go, go, go. Things do tend to move a little bit slower. Funny enough, real estate transactions actually happen at twice the speed than they do in New York. So riddle me that, but it's the truth. It seems to be a lot less red tape, no lawyers involved. But that's just one thing where it's like, hey, you know what? You're at a green light and it flashes green and someone doesn't move immediately. You don't need to lay on your horn immediately. Give them a second, you know? Not everyone's in a rush here. You'll find a lot of Sunday drivers on the road. And that's started to change, of course, because we have a lot of people from New York and New Jersey. We also have a lot of older people on the road. So lead with grace, guys. It can be very difficult. I understand, especially because I'm a different person when I drive. I don't know who I am when I drive. I'm much angrier than I am in real life. I'm very non-confrontational, nice person, I promise. But when I'm in my car, I can't tell you how many F-bombs I drop, how many idiots I've never called someone an idiot to their face in my life and been serious about it. But in my car, every day I'm like, man, I can't imagine you being this stupid driving everywhere and throughout your entire life. So I need to learn some lessons from what I'm saying here. But either way, guys, those are the top 5 mistakes I see people making when they're moving here to St. Augustine or Florida in general. If you got some value out of this video, make sure you do me that solid. Tap the subscribe button below, like the video, comment if you have any additional questions about what's going on here in St. Augustine or Florida as a whole. As I said before, if you are looking to buy, sell, or invest, we're here for you. All we try to do is give you the information so that you can make an educated decision on what you want to do. Until next time.